Stop thinking that skipping your morning coffee will ever make you a millionaire by next year. This is a massive lie designed to keep you small and focused on the wrong things. My name is Rosma, and I am here to rebuild your entire financial DNA starting now. We are going to destroy the latte factor myth with cold, hard math and brutal logic. You have been told to sacrifice small joys while ignoring the massive holes in your bucket. The truth is that penny pinching creates a scarcity mindset that actually kills your long-term wealth. Most financial gurus want you to feel guilty about spending $5 on a simple drink. I want you to focus on the macro levers that actually move the needle of success. Let us dive into the science of why your saving strategy is currently failing you miserably. Prepare yourself for a high-intensity breakdown of how real wealth is actually built and maintained. First, we must address the concept of opportunity cost, because every dollar you save by suffering is a dollar of energy you lose for creating new and massive income. If you spend your mental bandwidth agonizing over a small coffee, you are literally depleting the cognitive resources required to negotiate a higher salary or start a profitable side business. High-level financial strategy dictates that your time is the most valuable asset you own. Yet you treat it like a cheap commodity when you spend hours hunting for coupons. When we look at the math of the latte factor, saving $5 a day yields a negligible amount compared to the devastating impact of annual inflation on cash holdings. Inflation is the silent killer of the middle class, eroding your purchasing power every single second while you are distracted by the price of a beverage at a cafe. If you save $5 today, that $5 will buy significantly less in 10 years, meaning your sacrifice is essentially being taxed by the very passage of time. We must also discuss hedonic adaptation, which is the psychological phenomenon where humans quickly return to a stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative changes in life. By cutting out small luxuries, you trigger a feeling of deprivation that eventually leads to a massive, uncontrolled spending binge when your willpower inevitably collapses under the heavy pressure. True behavioral analysis proves that sustainable wealth comes from managing large expenses, like housing and transportation, rather than micromanaging the small daily comforts that keep your morale very high. Let us look at the numbers because a 1% increase in your career earnings dwarfs a lifetime of skipping lattes by a factor of at least 10 to 1. You are playing a small game while the world is moving fast. And you need to realize that defense alone will never win a championship in the world of finance. Opportunity cost isn't just about money. It is about the trade-off between a life of restriction and a life of strategic expansion that leads to real and lasting freedom. When you focus on expansion, you look for ways to increase your value to the marketplace instead of finding new ways to live a smaller and more restricted lifestyle. The psychology of wealth requires you to feel abundant so that you can make bold moves. But the latte factor keeps you trapped in a cycle of constant minor fear. Hedonic adaptation means you will get used to the coffee-free life, but the resentment will simmer beneath the surface and eventually poison your relationship with your own hard-earned money. Inflation makes the act of simple hoarding a losing strategy, yet the myth of the penny saved suggests that cash is a safe harbor when it is actually sinking. You need to pivot your focus toward assets that appreciate faster than the rate of inflation so that your wealth grows while you sleep instead of while you suffer. 28. Stop listening to the voices that tell you to shrink your life to fit your income and start listening to the strategies that grow your income to fit your dreams. Every minute spent calculating the cost of a snack is a minute lost from calculating the potential ROI of a new investment or a specialized skill that pays dividends. This is the Rosma method of financial dominance, where we prioritize the big wins and automate the small stuff so that your mind is free to hunt for larger opportunities. Sesandi, think about the energy you bring to a meeting when you feel successful versus the energy of someone who is constantly calculating if they can afford a simple lunch out. That energy shift is a tangible factor in your professional success because people are drawn to those who project an aura of abundance rather than those who project scarcity. Your brain is a biological supercomputer, and using its processing power to save pennies is like using a nuclear reactor to power a single tiny and dim light. Let us redirect that power toward understanding market cycles and asset allocation, because those are the pillars that will support your family for the next several generations to come. The latte factor is a distraction used to keep the masses from asking why their wages have stagnated while the cost of living has skyrocketed over the last few decades. By blaming your coffee habits, the system shifts the responsibility onto your shoulders while ignoring the macroeconomic forces that are actually responsible for your lack of significant financial progress. You must be smarter than the average consumer and recognize that wealth is built through ownership and leverage, not through the elimination of your daily ritual of caffeine and joy. Hedonic adaptation tells us that the joy of the coffee is fleeting, but the stress of the restriction is a constant weight that slows down your creative and professional output. Inflation ensures that your bank account is a leaky bucket, so you must learn to pump water faster than it leaks by creating multiple streams of high-value passive income. Opportunity cost is the hidden tax on every decision you make, and the cost of being cheap is often the loss of your most profitable and exciting future opportunities. I want you to stop being a bookkeeper of your misery and start being the CEO of your destiny by making decisions based on growth rather than based on fear. The math simply does not support the idea that small savings lead to big wealth without a massive increase in the underlying velocity of your capital and your career. If you invest that $5 into a high growth asset, it is better than saving it. But investing in your own skill set is often the highest return possible. A specialized certification or a public speaking course could yield a 20% raise, which is worth thousands of lattes every single year for the rest of your life. Why are you choosing the path of most resistance for the least reward when the path of strategic growth is open and waiting for someone with your specific drive? MaRo is here to tell you that the numbers do not lie, and the numbers say that your focus is currently being stolen by insignificant and meaningless financial micro details. Shift your gaze to the horizon and look at the big three expenses: where you live, what you drive, and how much you pay in taxes to the government. Optimizing those three areas will save you more in a single month than skipping coffee, will save you in an entire decade of miserable and caffeine-free mornings in life. Use the science of behavioral finance to automate your investments so that you never have to think about them and can focus entirely on your primary mission of earning. Once your wealth is automated, the guilt of spending vanishes because you know that your future is already secured by a system that works even when you are not. This is how the elite think. They do not count their pennies. They count their assets and the time they have freed up to pursue even larger and more lucrative deals. Hedonic adaptation can be used to your advantage by slowly increasing your lifestyle, only after your passive income has reached a level that easily covers all of your desires. Inflation will continue to march on regardless of your choices. So you must own things that benefit from inflation, like real estate or equity in high quality and growing companies. The opportunity cost of staying in a low paying job because you are too tired from saving is the greatest tragedy of the modern financial era we are living in. Break the chains of the latte factor and realize that your potential is not limited by your spending, but by your courage to demand more from the global economic market. You have the power to change your trajectory today by deciding that you will no longer be distracted by small minded financial advice that leads to a small minded and boring life. Professional strategy requires a cold, calculated look at the ROI of every action. And the ROI of worrying about coffee is effectively zero or even negative in the long run. High energy and high output are the keys to the kingdom. So fuel yourself, treat yourself, and then go out and dominate the field in which you are a specialist. This is the final wake up call to stop playing defense with your money and start playing the most aggressive and intelligent offense that you have ever played in your life. Follow the math, trust the science of Rosma, and watch as your wealth expands to levels you once thought were impossible for someone who still enjoys a daily coffee.